How mRNA medicines will change the world. Every one of us has dosed themselves with the mRNA vaccines. It's clear that this new way of making vaccine is both remarkably safe and incredibly effective. But did you know it's not a vaccine itself that's keeping you safe? It's actually your body. Because human body has amazing powers to prevent and cure disease by making its own medicine. Our body just need to know that what medicine to make, and that's what a vaccine gives us, a simple set of instructions. So today I'm going to talk about how mRNA medicines will change the world by Mellisa J.Moore. I'm going to review that. My name is Fahad Abdullah. In this video, she tells us about how mRNA vaccine is heralding in an entirely new era of medicines. mRNA gives us the ability to not only prevent disease but also treat previously intractable disorders. It all comes down to what? What is the new way of medicines really about? It all comes down to one thing, which is known as proteins. As all of us think that this is an important part of our diet, something to build muscles, but protein also make up a huge fraction of the incredible complicated ecosystem of our body. Our body is made up of different structures with different functions happening in them. Our body makes many proteins like actin and myosin in our muscle that enables us to move, collagen in our skin, antibodies protecting us from disease. Now, if we think about building the structure of buildings, the structure of buildings may look quite different in the end, but they're all made up of limited set of building materials, and how those building materials are used, which of them are used, and how they are arranged, cast the building their final form. Just like that is seen for proteins. If we see them in the three-dimensional architecture, or you can say structure, they are just long strings of building blocks, and they have different shapes, different ways to interact with one another, and what order they are in gives a protein their three-dimensional shape. There are 100,000 different types of proteins. Each of the 30 trillion cells in our body contains 1 and 10 billion protein molecules. Each different cell type in our body makes a different kind of protein. And like any complex building project, we can imagine that the process of protein synthesis needs to be tightly regulated so that the protein is made at the right time and in the right place. But of course, with anything so complicated, it's perhaps not surprising that there is an occasional mistake or fault in the algorithm.
Let's go back to that metabolic chart. It's estimated that 1 in 1,000 newborns are born without the ability to make one of the proteins on this chart. Therefore, they have lifelong complications due to inborn metabolic errors. Let's take just one of those. Let's talk about von Gerke's disease, or glycogen storage disease 1. This is due to the lack of a protein circled here in red, whose job it is to release stored sugars so that you can maintain a healthy blood sugar level while you're fasting. So von Gerke's disease patients can't fast. They must constantly eat small amounts of carbohydrates, including getting up every 1 or 2 hours during the night to eat raw cornstarch. But even if these patients can keep up this endless feeding cycle, they are plagued by lifelong complications, including delayed puberty, frequent infections, kidney disease, and liver cancer.
So von Gerke's disease is just one example of a disorder where we know that what protein is missing, and what if we could give those patients back the ability to make the missing protein so that we can actually treat their disease instead of just managing their symptoms. And that's where mRNA comes in. By the way, what is mRNA? mRNAs are long chain like molecule composed of building blocks, that 4 building blocks that made up of messenger RNAs form what is known as genetic code. As their name implies, messenger RNAs carry messages that are translated by your body in order to create proteins. Messenger RNAs are the language of life. So like proteins, our cells are full of messenger RNAs. Every one of our 30 trillion cells has hundreds of thousands of mRNAs. So when we are eating proteins, we are also eating lots of messenger RNAs.
Now, 3 properties of proper medicines are that their effects are of limited duration, that their effects are dose dependent, and that they can be given over and over again to produce the same effect. mRNAs are transient. The amount of protein produced is dependent on how much of that mRNA is present, and they can be induced over and over again to produce the same effect. So we had the know-how and the capacity to manufacture vaccines quickly. Thus, when the sequence of the SARS-CoV-2 virus was posted to a public web server on January 10th, 2020, we got immediately to work. Within 2 days, we had agreed with our collaborators at NIH on exactly which form of the spike protein to put in our vaccine. Because we had done so many times before, it then took our mRNA design team just 1 hour to design the mRNA, able to make that RNA, get it quality controlled, fill finish, and shipped off to NIH for the clinical trial in 45 days. Now, what I find truly remarkable is that mRNA sequence that took us 1 hour to design is the same mRNA sequence that went into your arms, that ended up in Spikevax, our now fully approved vaccine.
For cancer patients, they can send in by directly injecting messenger RNA into their tumor. They can send an instruction telling the tumor cells to self-destruct or having the tumor cells send out signals to the immune system, to beckoning the immune system to attack repeat. They have also made mRNA vaccines for COVID, like flu, COVID, and RSV, because they can be produced so quickly and rapidly. Having learned to speak the language of messenger RNA, the language of life, they can now use it to create medicines that just for one person, like a personalized cancer vaccine, or can be rapidly produced and distributed to entire population, like COVID-19 vaccines. And the best part is that they're simply tapping into your body's own ability to make its own medicine. Thank you. My name is Fahad. I am signing off.